If you're a meat eater who's feeling cheesy, saucy, or something in between, then keep an eye out for these unimpeachable toppings the next time you're in a steakhouse. You're probably going to notice a bit of a running theme on this list about the culinary wonders that reside in the seas and oceans. Simply put, there's something incomparably glorious about a surf and turf meal. So if you're ever presented with the opportunity to top your steak with lobster of any kind, you should never hesitate to do so. To be perfectly honest, though, it's entirely possible that some lobster toppings available at well-known steakhouse chains, like a straightforward lobster tail, won't necessarily be served on top of the beef itself. But that's no big deal. If the lobster arrives next to your steak, you always have the power to put it on top yourself.
I can do it myself!
Frankly, it doesn't matter if a steakhouse provides the option of a poached lobster meat to top your steak, or a lobster-forward version of Béarnaise sauce. Regardless of its precise location on the plate, nothing elevates the already extravagant steakhouse experience like adding the fanciest of all shellfishes. Could we be taken seriously by carnivores if we neglected to include Béarnaise sauce among the best steak toppings around? While it can be fun to occasionally buck conventional wisdom, there's no denying that you can't beat the liquid richness of Béarnaise sauce when it comes to top-notch steak toppers. Plenty of steakhouse chains have a standard version of Béarnaise available on their menus. No matter the precise preparation, this is the perfect choice for anyone eager to enhance the overall flavors of their steak when you're not worried about your cholesterol levels. For one thing, the tarragon and shallots in the sauce make any steak feel more upscale and refined. If you're the type of person who thinks that a perfectly marbled, melt-in-your-mouth tender steak needs no additions whatsoever, then it's weird that you're watching this video, first of all. But for those of you who do like to garnish your meat, any list of the best steak toppings would simply be incomplete without this classic butter and egg yolk-based sauce. Now it's time for another shellfish topper, which may just be the best of the bunch. Shrimp's uniquely delicate flavor and texture make it an unparalleled partner for essentially any cut of steak. More than the taste alone, it's also the combination of availability and affordability that makes this option so great. To be clear, we're not saying that shrimp is undeniably better than the likes of lobster or scallops, but considering that a shrimp topping tends to cost far less than its shellfish cousins, it's easy to recommend this one for all the budget-conscious consumers out there. Like any other seafood steak topping, the method of preparation really doesn't make much difference. Whether it's grilled, fried, or boiled, any occasion when there's shrimp on top of steak is a joyous one.
Hip hip! Hooray!
Not every potential steak topping provides an increase in opulence. In fact, some of the greatest can be found for less than $5 at your local grocery store. Then again, the blue cheese topping that you might order at a steakhouse isn't necessarily pulled from a simple supermarket shelf, although we're not sure anyone would actually complain if that turned out to be the case. One of the most interesting aspects of blue cheese as a steak topping is the various ways in which it can be transformed before it's served. After all, many blue cheese toppings combine the central component with complementary ingredients, thereby creating an unfathomably rich and creamy final product. It doesn't matter if you opt for a blue cheese butter topping, a blue cheese crust, or some fondue made with gorgonzola. If you're a fan of this mold-friendly dairy derivative, then you're likely to immensely enjoy how its sharp umami flavor increases the savoriness of any steak bite. Anyone who's been to a high-end steakhouse has surely encountered a number of entree options without sides. Certain restaurants generally only offer sides intended to be shared by the table. With that in mind, some of the best toppings can act as an add-on side of sorts, such as the asparagus and shellfish-focused Oscar-style topping. Whether it's listed as an Oscar topping or simply as Steak Oscar, there are a number of steakhouse chains known to offer this option. However, despite its widespread availability, it doesn't seem as though there's a uniform expectation for what's included in this preparation. Some versions use crab, while others use lobster, though every version tends to feature a heavy dose of butter and herbs. With a long track record as a steakhouse favorite and a history rooted in Swedish royalty, the Oscar-style topping is surely familiar to anyone who frequents steakhouses. But if you've never taken the plunge and topped your cut with this all-time classic, take our advice and order it with confidence on your next visit.
Oscar style.
If you've ever been bitterly disappointed by a restaurant using truffle oil rather than actual truffles, then you may not immediately understand all the fuss surrounding black truffle butter. We can certainly understand the aversion to a mass-produced, likely artificially flavored product that doesn't contain any authentic truffles in its ingredients. But when compared to the black truffle butter offered at steakhouses, the difference is night and day. The legitimately unmatched earthy flavor of black truffles results in an incomparably decadent butter product. Furthermore, the presence of black truffles should ensure that the melted butter butter doesn't turn your steak into an overly rich nightmare. Instead, it will simply enhance the level of succulence and depth of flavor. Regardless of the reason for black truffle butter's common presence on steakhouse menus, the bottom line remains the same. After all, few food items are known to elevate a dish's overall flavor profile like the stunningly expensive black truffle. Thus, it's always well worth the price of admission to top your steak with black truffle butter. At this point, it should be abundantly clear how much we recommend ocean-centric options as steak toppers, so it should come as no surprise that scallops are now making their way into the spotlight. Similar to lobster, it's entirely possible that the scallops you order to top your steak with won't literally be placed over the beef, but a scallop will taste just as subtly sweet and briny no matter where it sits on your plate. Whether it's pan-seared, deep-fried, or wrapped in bacon, there's no way that you'll be disappointed by the addition of scallops. Obviously, though, if you're allergic to shellfish, then it's a bit of an understatement to say that you won't find scallops as enjoyable as the rest of us. But you don't have to worry about missing out, as there are fortunately plenty of non-seafood choices to ensure that you have a delicious time. As for those of you who can handle the treats of the sea, if you're eager to pivot away from the more common shrimp or lobster, then you'd be hard-pressed to beat scallops as your next great steak topper. Plenty of foodies would agree that there are two food items that automatically make anything better, and they would be bacon and melted cheese. Alas, the former isn't always available as a ready accompaniment at steakhouse. Fortunately, though, melted cheese is in fact widely offered as a topping, either by itself or along with other ingredients. If you're at Texas Roadhouse, for example, you can enhance your sirloin with a handful of shredded jack cheese that will readily melt into the beef. Similarly, if you want to smother an Outback T-bone with melted cheese and a heaping serving of sautéed vegetables, then you can absolutely do so.
It's full-on Aussie time.
It doesn't matter what type of cheese is melted on top of your steak, how exactly it's served, or whether it's combined with additional toppings or not. Simply put, there's no way you can beat the simplicity of gooey melted cheese when it's on top of any food, and steak is no different. The popularity of fatty, super rich sauces may not sound like the best idea if you're trying to be health conscious. Luckily, the steak topping game isn't exclusively about creamy, dairy-forward condiments. In fact, one of the greatest steak toppings you can order is chimichurri sauce. With South American origins, chimichurri is a fairly simple sauce created with fresh herbs, bright tasting and usually bright green colored. This condiment is a favored topping at many steakhouses for a reason. An almost perfect addition to any grilled meat, this light sauce provides a phenomenal contrast to the many creamy sauces offered at steakhouses. The freshness of the herbs and the citrus juice cut through the fat in a grilled cut of meat, thereby balancing out the flavor. Chimichurri sauce may be the best steak topping for the nutritionally focused diner, and the fact that it's often as tasty as it is healthy makes it a fantastic selection for anybody. Most of the toppings on this list can readily be found at multiple steakhouse chains, so for any option that doesn't fit that criterion, it must clear an exceptionally high bar of deliciousness. With that in mind, the Toowoomba topping isn't your average run-of-the-mill sauce. Offered exclusively by Outback Steakhouse, this culinary concoction expertly combines shrimp and mushrooms in a creamy tomato-based sauce. The Toowoomba topping is also offered in a pasta dish, and it also earns the distinction of perhaps the most intriguing name at any steakhouse. But it's not merely the fact that it's fun to say that earns it a spot on our list, although that certainly doesn't hurt. We've already established that anything with shrimp as a core ingredient is a terrific option, so it's no wonder that Toowoomba makes the cut. And we're not alone in our love for this sauce, as multiple online reviews of Outback have spotlighted happy experiences with this unique topping. Simplicity is an asset in many culinary situations, and that fact isn't lost on the vast majority of steakhouse chains in the United States. After all, while the desire to offer top-drawer menu items like lobster and black truffle butter makes sense, sometimes all a customer wants is to get back to basics. With that in mind, there's not much that's more pleasurable with your steak than a simple serving of sautéed mushrooms and onions.
Eat your vegetables.
It may seem odd to some that this classic steak topping doesn't always also include peppers with these other vegetables. It's a bit of a mystery that we don't have a satisfying answer for, but their absence doesn't exactly harm the wonderful experience delivered by the mushrooms and the onions. This simple combination remains one of the all-time best steak toppings, even when you're preparing your own meaty dinner at home. The mushrooms offer an almost beefy flavor that makes the meat taste even more like beef, while the onions lend a sweetness that complements all of the savory flavors. As we come to the end of this list, it's worth acknowledging that there aren't really any hard and fast rules when it comes to what exactly makes for a top-notch steak topping. And since different people have different palates, feel free to tailor this advice to your own particular taste buds. But if there's one basic element that almost always increases the overall flavor, then it's the presence of a pepper-based seasoning. With that in mind, it's rather elementary why peppercorn sauce is such a common topping at many nationwide steakhouse chains. The logic behind serving a creamy and peppery sauce over any cut of steak is straightforward. The sharp bite of the pepper undeniably cuts through the savory fattiness of seared beef beautifully. And if there's one aspect of peppercorn sauce that you'll never want to ignore, it's the possible presence of whole peppercorns. An unground peppercorn looks like visual poetry when mixed in a cream-based sauce and poured over a cut of steak. But if you've never endured the pain of biting into and chewing on an actual whole peppercorn, you'll want to continue to stay away from that experience. We have no doubt that most steakhouses' peppercorn sauces taste exquisite. Just be sure to treat your teeth right and eat around any uncracked peppercorns.